Good evening, good night, good morning, good afternoon to the whole hip-hop nation. As a matter of fact, the whole hip-hop universe. I am Courtland W. Hankins III, a.k.a. the president of hip-hop. Yes, the president of hip-hop. And you are tuned into The Suite. Today, we have a wonderful, wonderful guest. But right before we introduce her, we're going to get a little theme music that's specific to our topic today and specific to our guest today. So again, welcome to The Suite. You know how I like to do it. Yeah, this is c.r.e.w music, y'all. c.r.e.w music for that powerful feminine energy. That's right. Every c.r.e.w needs her theme music. Isn't that right?
Isn't that right?
There it is. And again, I am Courtland W. Hankins III, the president of hip hop, and this is The Suite. Let's get right into it. Let's turn it down just a little bit. Keep it a little low. Let's keep the vibe going a little bit. And I am here to introduce to you a wonderful, wonderful woman by the name of Sharon Nelson. Sharon is the, is it the CEO, Sharon?
I am the CEO of Civically Re-Engaged Women.
Civically Re-Engaged Women. That's acronym known as
CR.e.w.
The Crew, right?
Are you down with the crew?
Are you down with the crew? That's right.
Well, you can be down with the crew.
You can be down with the crew, right? First we had the Get Fresh crew. Now we got Sharon Nelson in the crew. Exactly. And it stands for Civically Re-Engaged Women. Okay. Sharon, let's get right into it. I'm going to let you talk. Sometimes I talk a bit much. Tell us a little bit about crew.
Okay, very simply, Portland. First of all, thank you so much for having me on this show.
Thank you for being here.
There's nothing like The Suite, that's for sure.
That is true.
Hello, my brothers and sisters out there. Thank you for inviting me into your living room, your bedroom, wherever we are. Mm-hmm. And I just want to say, give a shout out to all the folks, because I'm a hip hop fan myself.
There it is.
So, right. Back in the day. But anyway, I'm going to come out.
We'll quiz that a little bit.
Yes. So about CR.e.w. So Civically Re-Engaged Women is an organization with 3 concentrations. The first concentration is that we train folks to how to run for office. What are the tools you need? What are the things you need to know? What are the rules and regulations? How do you get engaged? How do you get people to follow you? How do you get people to fund you? All of these things, we make sure that people know the correct way to do it. We have wonderful partners. In fact, this year we're so proud to announce Campaign Finance Board, New York City Campaign Finance Board, which is the regulatory agency for campaign management and candidates. They are a proud collaborative partner of ours, and they have been with us since the class began 4 years ago. So we're very pleased with that. The second thing that we do is that we do special conferences where we could reconnect women with their history, with things going on past and present. So we have a conference coming up later on this year that we'll talk about in celebration of the 19th Amendment, which is what allowed women the right to vote. So we're very excited about that. The third thing that we do is we organize women in coordinated campaigns, and this is where the c.r.e.w come in. Because it's so hard for women candidates to get the recognition that they need. Mm-hmm. We saw last year with the midterm elections, women really roared, right? Because we have over 100 new congressional members because of this widespread movement where women felt we had come into our own. Mm-hmm. So c.r.e.w.s, or the summer of c.r.e.w.s as the theme goes, was the opportunity for women, whether you're Democrat, Republican, Green Party, Independent Party, Conservative, whatever your thing is, we just want you to know the rules. It's a nonpartisan situation because we believe that it's important for women to amplify their voices.
Now, let me ask you, what made you come up with the idea to organize in this way and to provide a service to women in terms of learning the game, if you will. I guess that's basically what it is, right?
Well, it's interesting. I
The
mean,
class.
I've spent a significant amount of my adult years. I'm not going to tell you exactly how many, but to say it's significant.
Okay.
And I've worked on political campaigns. The most notable one that got me engaged was the Mandela Tour back in 1990, where I actually met Nelson Mandela.
Wow.
It was one of the highlights of my life.
I'm sure.
And that really got me motivated into more. And then from that, I went on to the Dinkins administration, where I became David Dinkins when he was mayor, his director of scheduling. And the rest, as they say, is history. I've had a pretty good political career, having worked for everybody from borough presidents to on city council races. And the diversity is great. I've worked gubernatorial and I've worked presidential campaigns as well.
Okay.
I'm a certified finance director from the Democratic National Committee, so I'm qualified to help you raise your money. So therefore, I thought that I was a good person to get this going because I have a long range of experience. And I think that oftentimes I picked on women because women before 2018, before 2016, really didn't have that voice or that mechanism.
Okay.
So I really felt I could be an asset to that, being a woman myself, with the purview of how to help.
Okay, excellent. Now let me ask you this. Why do you feel, because obviously it's something you're very passionate about, why do you feel it is important, first of all, that women be represented in the political process, and probably not just the political process, all leadership positions across all careers and professions. But is there something that you think women bring that men don't bring, or is it just the representation itself?
Well, I mean, the representation is important, and yeah, I really have to say, Courtland, this is a man's world.
Okay.
And I mean, that's no small statement. And the thing is, women built this country just as much as men did. And women are like the unsung heroes because we're like just like the furniture. Because people expect us to be there, you can sit on us, you can count on us, so forth. Whenever the chips are down, we make you feel better.
Right.
You know, women are the consummate caretakers, caregivers. And we, you know, who takes care of us? It's our time. It's our turn. Because we've been living in the shadows, hoping and praying and wishing and yearning for somebody to notice us. And guess what? They're not going to notice you unless you stand up and say, here I am.
Here I am. And make yourself known.
That's right. That's right.
Put yourself out there.
That's
now,
right.
Just recently, like you said, we have right now a wave of women who have been successful in the process. Who are down in Washington, D.C., making some noise right now.
I'm damn proud of all of them.
And I know you are. Now, is that, obviously that's positive, but is that something that can be short-lived?
Well, let me put it this way, Courtland. There's more women than men. So if anybody should be nervous, I'll leave it at that.
You hear that, fellas? Right? But you know what? It reminds me of even within hip hop, right? Hip hop is a male-dominated culture, if you will, art form, and there are a lot of amazing female MCs, but you very rarely the representation is not is not what it should be. It kind of reminds me of kind of how the political process has typically, or the political game has typically played out. So it would be nice to see the females in hip hop, you know, start making a comeback. There's more room for females in hip hop than just one or two, right? So let that be. Maybe we can get something like the crew, but for hip hop, right?
Well, you know what? Here's my thing. Nobody's going to give you anything in this life. So, and not to sound like Malcolm X, good brother though.
Right.
But what we have to do is make conscientious decisions. And if you are going to put yourself out there, if you feel you can make a change, if you feel that you have what it takes, because it's no easy ride and it's not for everybody.
Right.
But if you think that you have leadership potential if you think you're a clever enough person to be problem solving and troubleshooting, I very much welcome you to come. And women are good with that. Women are good with figuring things out and troubleshooting and trying something again and not getting frustrated. So that's one of the skills of women, because we don't really have a choice. And let me say something about the women MCs and hip-hop artists out there, because you have talent, you have these skills. I mean, very much so. Hip-hop is all about telling the story and understanding the culture. And I challenge the MCs and the artists writing the lyrics to really dig deep. Those who know their history should tell it.
Understood.
You know, because there's a shortage of that. You know, everybody can be profanity, and just, you know, complaining about life. There's a lot of good that gets left out.
Right.
The right to vote, emancipation, freedom, all of these things we desire and want. Why can't we do wonderful, positive hip-hop songs about that? The young people coming up can aspire to these altruistic ideas.
Exactly, and I tell you, because hip-hop is so powerful, is that it's really educating, right? And creating a vision for the young people coming up. And it's very, very important that our hip-hoppers and our artists that are representing the culture in the forefront are really setting a template that is going to be a solid foundation that our future youth can stand on and build upon.
One thing people of color know about is hope. They know about hope, they know about praying, and they know about God. Okay? And all I'm saying is use some of that to our benefit. You know, many people, when they see people of color and they don't look like us, they get intimidated. Why are they intimidated? You know, we've been labeled as a violent and aggressive people, but we got a lot to be violent and aggressive about. You know, so it's not by accident. Right. And you see, systemic racism is something that is pervasive in our society. You know, right now with Donald Trump and all these people who, and not that it's a bad thing, it's not their orientation. They don't understand. They didn't grow up with people of color. They don't know our struggles or our story. Therefore, we're unknown to them and they're afraid. And the thing is, we have to diffuse that. You know, when we have the opportunity, let's educate people. I'm no different than you. My blood is red. All I need is an opportunity. I don't have the complexion for the protection, as Paul Mooney says. But if I had the complexion for the protection, because we got enough of us that are passing out there, okay? Carol Channing, Dr. Joyce Brothers, they waited till they were dying to say that they were black, okay? And they said, what did they say? There was no benefit to telling the truth. Okay? So my only thing is, tell the truth. Be proud of who you are. Educate. Don't try to scare people, because it's not all that.
Understood. Now, I don't want you to give up too much game, right? But I want to get into the, the course, what you teach. I guess when I think about it, it's sort of like, you can go to the park, you can play a little ball, right? Play a little playground ball. But if you want to play in the big leagues, if you want to be a professional, if you want to do it for real, you need to learn the game. You need to learn basketball plays. You need to learn how the system works. You need to be coachable, right? You just can't be going out there, you know, just playing street ball and expecting that you're going to get into the big leagues. Is that kind of what you prepare?
Well, absolutely. I mean, let's face it. Knowledge is something that's learned. Very few of us have it innately. Now, there's some of us that are genius and have gifts. But for the most part, the rest of us have to go to school and learn what we know. You know, you had to go to school to learn the things you learned. I had to go to school to learn the things that I learned, and so on and so forth. So with the course, what we do is we teach you 12 weeks. In 12 weeks, something that could change your life. And we show people in a way. We have the class on Saturdays for 3 hours from 10 o'clock in the morning to 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Not a whole bunch of time, but enough time where we teach you the specific tool or the specific area of running for office or managing a campaign that's necessary. Because where do you go to learn this?
Right.
Some may say, oh, we learn, you go to political science, that's what it's for. Political science teaches you theory. What we teach you is the actual.
Right.
Okay? So in 12 weeks, it's the potential to change your life because we say, okay, if you have what it takes, show us what you got. Mm-hmm. And this is what you need to know along the way. Right. The easiest thing for people to do is to knock you off the ballot. If you don't know you need an attorney, if you don't know you need a treasurer, guess what's going to happen to you? Okay? And you're not going to raise any money. You're not going to know how to organize your committee. There's a whole bunch of things. And then, a lot of us, people of color, they like excuses. Oh, if only I had known. If only, I was taller, I was smarter, I was more handsome. Whatever. Right. Do something for yourself in a way that says, you know what? I can do this. You look on TV, everybody talks about AOC now, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Right. And the thing is, she's fabulous. Mm-hmm. But she didn't get there just like that. Everybody thinks, oh, she was a waitress.
Just popped out of nowhere.
Yeah, and it's not true.
Success.
Because if you look and you see, she had a lot of political experience. She did time with Senator Kennedy. She did time with Bernie Sanders. Okay. She had a lot of political mentors. Right. So when she opens her mouth and speaks, it's not that, she had a dream and,
right.
She's just spouting stuff out.
Right.
She's a very confident young lady. Mm-hmm. I admire that. Right. Because many of us are not that confident. And by the same token, she has her own mind and her own desire. Right. One thing because she's young that she will have to learn is you don't have to address every little thing that's thrown to you. Mm-hmm. I think she's getting better at it. Okay. But for right now, it's hit or miss. But, this young lady, from the skills she possesses and her youth, she could very well be a presidential candidate not too far off in the future. Right,
right. Well, she's definitely doing her thing and making a name for herself. Yeah. And I think really, really blazing a trail.
I don't know if you know this, but I like to give out my predictions for the next year.
Okay, let's
this is the top of the year. I predicted that this year is the year of the Latina.
Last year, did you predict that?
Well, last year was really the year of the African American woman. Okay. We came, we saw, we conquered, like Julius Caesar said. I'm not going to say the Latin words, but anyway, the point is, we all have 15 seconds thereabouts. Right. And if you want to check with Carl Sagan or these other folks, that's all relative. Because 15 seconds could be years, but it could really be 15 seconds. Right. And as they say with the fierce urgency of now, it is time for people of color to make their impact. So running for office has a whole bunch of dimensions to it. Just coming back to why do the class and all that. Right. In 12 weeks, and we have a nominal charge, folks, because nothing in life is free and nothing worth having is free. They're real costs and it's an end game. But it's doable, and it's affordable. Excellent. What we do is we have a rolling admissions process. We really want the best and brightest in this. So we ask people to do a one-page essay that tells a little something about yourself. Who are you? What do you want? What are your ambitions in life? How do you think you help the community? What do you think that you want to do? Why do you want to run for office, or why do you want to be a campaign manager? Right. And we ask these things because we want to see what mindset people are in. Because if it's some BS, then, you're not right for this. And we do turn people down. Because people are always surprised. They say, oh, you charge your money for this? Because a lot of the popular training courses are free. But they do like a 2-hour boot camp. And really, this is a life-changing decision, running for office. You affect your family, right. You affect your friends, you affect your neighbors. There's a whole gamut of people, known and unknown, that you are affecting. Ocasio-Cortez has no idea how many people, especially the young Latinas, that look up to her. Mm-hmm. It's a huge responsibility. Right. So, when you get into these roles, you are a role model. So there's a lot of things that you need to think about when you decide that you're going to do this.
Sharon, I want to talk about the convention, right? Tell us about the convention. Is it in Seneca Falls?
Well, that's where we started.
Okay.
last year, 2018, we launched this idea that said, what if we connected with our past in such a way that we learned our story and understood why the women went through what they went through for the right to vote. Now, some may say, what is she talking about, we? Don't she see that she's a sister? Doesn't she know that the sisters weren't at Seneca Falls? Hold that thought.
Okay.
Because guess what? A sister named Harriet Tubman, a sister named Sojourner Truth, most of the women that were involved in the abolitionist movement,
Right.
that were people of color, guess what the next movement was?
The women's movement.
That's right. So the women's movement is what the convention really celebrates. And
Okay.
it's a part of our oral history because people of color were very much around. And like I said, some of the scholars say no, but guess what? Our people have been passing since the beginning of time.
Right.
So you cannot tell me that there were sisters at the convention that people didn't know were sisters.
Okay. So you're saying we've been, just like everything else, we've kind of been
Absolutely.
involved in every major
Absolutely.
movement from the beginning.
And now, because Frederick Douglass was the brother de jour, as they say,
Mm-hmm.
you know, he made sure because, you know, he was no punk. He was a real black man.
Right.
And in fact, because of him is why the 14th and 15th Amendments happened to allow the African American male to vote. You know, and then the women at Seneca Falls kind of felt that he had thrown them under the bus.
Right. So that did cause a little bit of rift between.
Oh, baby, you know what it caused. But, you know, not to be outdone.
Right.
The women of suffrage, mostly white women,
Mm-hmm.
and it was all good because we found there 22 women credited with suffrage, of which the 7 were African American.
Okay.
Okay? And there's a little controversy right now because we're about to get a statue in Central Park dedicated to suffrage.
Okay.
And they picked Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton as the iconic figures of suffrage, which, you know, in theory, I'm not mad about because most of the people in school don't even learn about Susan B. or Elizabeth Cady Stanton,
Right.
let alone the smaller figures. And
Right.
these were the larger-than-life figures.
Right.
So if you can imagine, somehow, wonderfully, they learned about Sojourner Truth and Harriet Tubman, but because of abolition and abolitionism.
So Sojourner Truth and Harriet Tubman, they were a part of the suffrage movement?
Absolutely.
Really? Okay. Excellent.
And there was a whole colored women and Negro women movement with suffrage. But once again, it's like taking up all the air in the room. You know, certain people get play because they have the opportunity and they have the exposure.
Right. Well, you know, and I guess, you know, there is this, in the black community, you know, there's sometimes this feeling that, you know, black women should not be a part of, I don't know if it's the feminist movement or the women's movement, I don't know if they're one and the same, right? But there is sometimes a belief that it's not the black woman's place to really be a part of that movement.
Well, you know what happened with that, and I think Toni Morrison gets the credit for coining womanism. What happened in the 70s with the rise of the word feminist, and it really was a word that the Caucasian women embraced. And then it became something else because it became a sexuality term. So a lot of times if you were identified as a feminist, it also identified you as a lesbian. And women of color at that time, at that stage, didn't have that comfort level. So they preferred to not be labeled as feminists, and they labeled themselves as womanists because they believed they had a different path. Right, and also most of the women that identified as womanists were not lesbians.
Right.
Because the women who identified as feminists were lesbians, and it became a part of that movement.
Gotcha.
You know, thus the burden of the bra and all of that stuff.
Right.
And that's where it's important to know that history. Because that's where the two words don't meet.
Gotcha. Understood. So, again, it's called 2019 Seneca Falls Revisited, and it's going to be in Saratoga Springs, New York.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
On August 25th, is that a weekend?
It's a Sunday. It's Sunday to Wednesday.
Sunday to Wednesday. So
Yes.
Sunday, August 25th until Wednesday, August 28th, 2019.
Correct.
And just give me a little snapshot of how you envision those 3 days, 4 days?
Yeah, well, it's an amazing
Transpired.
time. It's an amazing time because what we're doing is right now we're combing through the archives. We started in Rochester, it was 1848 with the Seneca Falls Convention, thus the name Seneca Falls Revisited, because that's the lightning rod that started the movement.
Okay.
That women said that, you know, we got a list of demands and this is what we're going to do. The Declaration of Sentiments came out of that. So when we had the women come and we took tours and we had people understanding and reconnecting, the Susan B. Anthony House was a part of it. The Lieutenant Governor, Kathy Hochul, was amazing. The New York State Suffrage Commission, all of these big, powerful entities were a part of it. And it was great because women came from all across the country to really experience that. So what we're going to do in Saratoga Springs, we know there was another convention in 1870. And interestingly enough, Susan B. Anthony was also there.
Okay.
So we're following our story. You know, one of the things we want to do is sort of have a reenactment of what it was like in 1870. You know, post-Emancipation Proclamation.
Right.
Freedom for black folks.
Mm-hmm.
How did that change the world? And what was the different movement in the women's movement like as a result of it?
Right.
We have an incredible woman author, Susan Goodyear, who writes about the African American women in the movement.
Present day author?
Absolutely.
Okay.
She's a professor
What's her
at
name
one of
again?
the SUNYs. Susan Goodyear
Okay, and she's a professor where?
at one of the SUNY schools. And she's amazing, hugely talented woman, writes so clearly, so classically. I mean, tells the story, tells the truth.
Okay, so she's part of helping the script what's going on?
Yes.
Now, can we invite, is there any hip-hop energy or representation at
There's always space for hip hop.
So there is space, right?
Yeah,
So
but let's be intelligent about it.
Of course.
Let's be motivated to bring something that's not there to the table.
Well, I would think that would almost go without saying. If they're gonna,
Well, no, because we can't assume anything.
can't assume, right? You just don't want to get surprised.
That's right.
Okay.
That's
excellent,
right.
excellent.
And I want people to understand that education is not a white thing.
Right.
Because people feel, oh, if there's no ebonics, if there's no cursing, I'm not comfortable. What?
Right.
You know, it is the person who can say what they mean without profanity.
My favorite MC of all time, and pretty much largely considered the best MC of the number one MC of all time, Rakim, never cursed in any of his rhymes. Throughout all the classic hits and the amazing writing and penmanship that he had, he never cursed. His vocabulary was exquisite, and it didn't compromise his authenticity or his street cred.
Well, you see, one of the reasons why I was so eager to come on this show is because really hip-hop started political. You know,
We have definitely very deep political roots.
Look at Chuck D. Look at Public Enemy.
KRS-One.
That's right.
You know, when he started moving from criminal-minded to more spiritual-minded and socio-political minded. So we have, it actually changed, that era in hip-hop changed, that was very influential to me. And it changed how we moved and how we represented ourselves, you know, in the neighborhood. So it's a part of hip-hop that is, we need to, some more of it. We need to come back.
So I invite all that are interested in understanding, because it's always part of this. You can always learn something. Mm-hmm. And Saratoga Springs is beautiful that time of year. If you enjoy the racetrack, I understand that it's going to be a pretty intense weekend because that's the weekend that the race happens right before the end of the Kentucky Derby in Belmont in New York. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I think it'll be a beautiful
Should be
time.
A vibrant time.
That's right.
And
because
August, great
have
weather.
a little fun. We believe in having fun while we get some education.
Of course. You
know,
gotta have
business,
fun.
pleasure, all of that. Networking, we got it all.
Exactly.
It's wonderful.
Now tell me, who are some of your favorite hip hop artists?
Okay. Oh my God, this is a long list. Well, okay. I've been told that I remind people of Queen Latifah.
Queen Latifah. All right. UNITY.
That's it. That's it.
All right,
Salt and Pepper.
Salt and Pepper. That's right.
You know, MC Light. Then let's not forget Missy Elliott. the misdemeanor.
That's right. That's
So
right.
I have a lot of.
When earlier, not to interrupt you,
Mhm.
but you were spitting some Roxanne Shante lyrics. Right?
Well, you see, I believe that before the Me Too movement got real popular, Roxanne Shante said it all.
What she said?
She said, "Me, the rocks, give up the box, and you could talk about for the next 6 blocks." Shoot, she must be crazy. You think I'm a fool?
That's right.
Your IQ's just 1.2. Okay.
There you go. Let him know. Let him know. Right. That's some womanism right there. So, shout out to c.r.e.w of the Funky 4 Plus One More. Right. She's the first MC that I knew or I ever heard to do it. But there's been so many great female MCs, and I think that hip hop spirit would translate very well into the political process. So the skills that you learn as an MC in terms of honing in on issues and being able to eloquently put it together. Right, I think that can translate very, very well.
Sure.
And I think we need to use some of those skills.
I mean, if we knew that the hip hop community was interested, we would even do a workshop. Maybe people could throw some lyrics down, and we could see if we can have some lyrics of the movement. You know, ERA is coming out. ERA could use a theme song. The Equal Rights Amendment. I shouldn't just say era.
There we go.
Equal Rights Amendment.
Okay.
I mean, right now we're struggling. Virginia just lost their battle. You know, we got
with respect to the ERA movement.
Yes.
Okay.
The vote was yesterday. They didn't make it.
Wow.
How long do we have to go through this? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, maybe a soundtrack is needed. Some lyrics to c.r.e.w soundtrack.
That's right.
You know,
That's right. Make this popular.
Help propel.
That's right. That's right.
The,
You know, take the power away from the old white men.
Understood.
Okay, but anyway, thank you for having me on the show.
Yes,
I appreciate it. I hope people will come, put the flyers up, let them know.
I definitely will. I'll post them up on the show, and then any other place that I have it available. You know, I'm able to promote what you do. I think it's very, very important, and I think it's a great, great service. And you have a wealth of knowledge and amazing energy.
Well, I'll see you in class, and I'll see you in Saratoga.
There you go. Sharon Nelson, c.r.e.w, Civically Re-Engaged Women, the CEO, and I am Courtland W. Hankins III, the president of hip hop. Thank you for tuning in to The Suite. Yeah, can we get a little music
Awesome.
on the way out?
Awesome.